Hi, everyone. Good morning from windy Baku. In this series of Born to be Global, we have a guest from Lithuania. Her name is Roberta Rudokiene. She's the head of Startup Lithuania. Hi, Roberta. How are you?
Hello, I'm fine. Greetings from windy Lithuania. Thanks for inviting me to join your discussion. And I feel like online traveling to Baku.
Oh, very good, very good. Actually, yes, we miss traveling a lot because of the situation, and it's great to at least connect with our friends through Zoom. So just let's start with Lithuania. How is everything progressing in Lithuania? How is the life over there?
It's pretty okay, feeling like back to normal. If we talk about our startups, we see that situation is better. Not everyone, but most of them got used to it, and some of them are taking advantages of the situation, and their sales are increasing. So it differs, of course, depending on the sector, on the type of business. But like at the moment, it's quite okay.
Yeah, it's the same here. We see a lot of digital transformation. The companies that were, active as a traditional business are trying to switch into online, and they're trying to offer their services, their products online. So it's a good thing in terms of startup ecosystem, and we hope that more and more businesses will experience that. So today's talk, we actually will talk about the startup ecosystem, and we want to get to know the Lithuanian ecosystem better. So my first question is that we share a common history. We were both part of the former Soviet Union, and but after the collapse of Soviet Union, each country, they started working on their things. And in today's world, when we compare Lithuania with all other countries of Soviet Union, we see that Lithuania is like far ahead in terms of startup ecosystem. So my first question is, what are the things that you did right that we did wrong? I mean, what are the things that made Lithuania better compared to others?
So thanks for acknowledgement. I feel really honored. I think the main thing is that Lithuania doesn't have any natural resources. We don't have oil, gas, minerals, nothing. What we have people and talents. We have quite big basis of universities, and 58% of population with higher education. And with this number, we are in the first place in the EU. So I think that people, this talent base, gave opportunities to create quite strong startup ecosystem. And of course, purposeful work of government and putting efforts to create startup ecosystem also finished in the situation that we are right now with quite booming ecosystem and the first unicorn.
Yes, definitely. Actually, you mentioned that 58% of the population are educated, and I believe mostly everyone is bilingual. I mean, they speak at least two languages, English and Lithuanian,
right? Yes, and I think even more. I think about, if we talk about young generation, like up to 35, 40 years, so 85% of young professionals speak fluent English. And about 50% of population speaking in two languages. So English, Russian, Lithuanian. It's quite.
Yeah, it's the same over here.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, the old generation, they speak Russian as they lived in the Soviet Union, but the younger generation, they tend to, they're more leaned towards English, and it's good to actually have like a population of young generation speaking English. That way they have access to all the knowledge, to all the innovation, all the recent publications and everything.
Yes.
So the secret of Lithuanian ecosystem is the, like human capital. You have this human capital that are there to change things, to innovate. You just mentioned that you have a unicorn. So my second question is about this. Lithuania has a population of 2.7 million people, so that's not like a big market, but you have grown your own tech unicorn last year, Vinted. It's a used clothing startup. I mean, when you make an analysis of these tech startups, you see that only a handful of countries have this, tech unicorns, and Lithuania is actually one of them. So, what's the secret sauce behind your things? I mean, what did you do? What does this Lithuanian ecosystem has that contributed towards bringing out your own tech unicorn?
I think the size of the country gives us global mindset. When creating a startup, you don't think about Lithuania as a market because it's too small. So our founders, they start already creating startups, thinking global, to how to start in Europe, how conquer the world and the US, and etc. So it's a small country with a big talent pool, great place to create startup, but it's born global already as your topic of the discussion. So I think this size of the country is giving us this mindset of not being closed just in a small market.
Yes, definitely. That's actually, I think that's something that we also have to learn from Lithuania. Even though a population of 10 million sounds like a bigger market than 2.7 million, but still it's not good enough to create a unicorn, because you really need to have like a huge market. And when you compare like other countries, you see that most of the unicorns are in two bigger markets. It's the United States and China. Because I think that's because of the population size. And then in Europe, yes, you have like different countries with tech unicorns. So yes, for Azerbaijan, I think Europe can also be the main market. But for Lithuania, I guess it's mostly European market, right? And maybe former Soviet Union market, because you have people who speak English, and you also, I mean, Russian, you also know the culture as a part of history, right?
Yes, so to add to this, so our startup ecosystem, I think it's what we have now, it's a complex of different solutions and things. At the moment, our ecosystem is evolving for 10 years or more than 10 years. We have different governmental agencies to help startups to foster, like Startup Lithuania is starting to facilitate the ecosystem. So at the moment we count more than 1,000 startups, one unicorn. We have a bunch of tech parks and hubs for startups, acceleration programs, Lithuanian Business Angel Network, and quite a lot active venture capital funds, local venture capital funds. So the ecosystem is really developed. Yes. And of course it took some time to achieve what we have now.
Yes, I mean, it's not easy to have like all different players in place to build ecosystems, because when you build an ecosystem, you need to have like all different parts in place. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And one of the major factors that you need to have is actually the talent. I mean, the talent, because at the end of the day, this is the founders that are building these ventures. And when we talk about talent, one of the complaints that we get from different ecosystems is that their capabilities, like competitiveness, when you talk about when you consider competing globally, their competences are not really in place, and that comes down to education. And my question is actually about this. I have witnessed many people. I mean, some of my friends even went to study in Lithuania, in Kaunas University of Technology, to study like some engineering. So I guess the level of education is very good in Lithuania. And so where do these founders come from? I mean, all these startups have their founders. Are these founders locals, or do you also see some like brain drain from former Soviet Union countries, maybe from other European countries to come to Lithuania to start their businesses?
Yes, it differs. A lot of Lithuanian local founders, but also different teams that are multicultural. A lot of young Lithuanians now study abroad in Oxford and other Cambridge great universities. They meet people and they create startups together. So we really see founders from founder teams from different countries. And also we have started visa program and we as Startup Lithuania administrate the program, and we are trying to attract non-European startup founders also to Lithuania, to our ecosystem, and develop their startups here.
Yes, and my second question is about these verticals. I mean, when you study different countries, different ecosystems, you see that some countries are specializing. For example, Canada is trying to specialize in AI. For example, Netherlands, New Zealand is trying to specialize in agtech, maybe because of their historical connections with different subsets. But according to the Global Startup Ecosystem Report that came out in 2019, Lithuania is seeing like success in two different verticals. One of them is mobility. So there's a startup called CTV, and another one is a fintech, of course, TransferGo. So my question is about this vertical. Was this something in purpose that the government or the startup ecosystem pushed it, or was this just like a coincidence that you had success in this field?
If we talk about fintech, so it was really a decision and a lot of actions taken from government, and especially Ministry of Finance and Lithuanian Bank. So the bank created a better regulation environment, and they have newcomers program to attract fintech startups and fintech companies to Lithuania. So it was done on purpose and with specific actions. And right now, I think Lithuania is really a great fintech center. We have more than 200 fintech companies. Lithuanian Bank is creating new incentives, for example, a sandbox. So it's really big job done by the governmental agencies and the ministry. If we talk about mobility and other sectors, I would add that we are very strong in cybersecurity. We have great potential unicorn Tesonet, which is a cybersecurity startup, and we also see potential in gaming. We have two great gaming companies in Lithuania, North Current and Game Inside, and we count about 50 other gaming companies. So there are more verticals, and I think it just happened because, as you may know, we have not only great talent pool, but also the fastest Wi-Fi in Europe, one of the fastest Wi-Fi, and Lithuanian people are eager to know new technologies, to have everything online, like e-solutions, everything is moving online. So I think that mobility sector just developed from this wish how to make things easier and better, empowering technologies.
Okay, so it's not just a coincidence because it's not just two verticals. So you're seeing some growth in gaming, mobility, in cybersecurity that you have already mentioned that there's a potential unicorn. So that actually tells me about the quality of education, maybe, right? Because engineering universities, maybe technical education is so good that you can focus in any different vertical and you can be successful in these verticals. So that's actually very good to hear. And that actually makes me ask my next question about this startup visa that you have. You've mentioned that you have the highest internet. I presume it's a very good atmosphere. You have very good atmosphere for startups, very good conditions for them to be successful. So you also offer a startup visa. That's actually, we've heard about many countries talk about startup visa, but actually there are only, I believe, only a handful of countries that actually are applying this and making this come true. And what are the, for example, for founders from Azerbaijan, they consider Lithuania as a go-to-market strategy to go into the Europe, for example. So what benefits will they get if they apply to this visa? I mean, what are the benefits for them?
Mm-hmm. So Startup Visa Lithuania was launched in 2017, and we already have more than 40 startups that relocated to Lithuania from non-European countries. So I think the main reason why it's great, it's possibility to reach the whole European market. As you open a company in Lithuania, you can work in the whole European market. So it's really great possibility for non-European startups. Why it's better than traditional ways to open a traditional business, because we have less requirements for initiative capital. It's streamlined and easier migration procedures when you use Startup Visa. And why Startup Visa Lithuania instead of other countries? I would say that because of this lively atmosphere, this lively startup ecosystem fully developed with all the hubs and accelerators and venture capital funds looking to invest. And it's much easier living costs and acquiring talents, having employees. It's much easier than, for example, in Berlin. So I think that's one of the reasons why it's really popular. We get applications from different countries: Ukraine, Russia, Turkey. We even have one startup that relocated from China, from South Korea, a girl from Australia. So it's really different countries.
Nice. So it's a very diverse, I believe it's a very diverse ecosystem of startup founders in Lithuania. And also, I believe you also have like a special section for startups in Lithuania that they can employ for technical or engineering team from abroad, right? They have a special visa type for startups
Yes.
that want to bring over the tech talent. For example, if there is a guy in Azerbaijan who is not a founder, but a very good, like a programmer or coder, so he can still go and live in Lithuania and work for a startup, right?
Yes, that's right. We've seen the problem that all the countries are facing now, that there is a lack of IT talents and companies are fighting for the talents. So we've created a startup employee visa, also streamlined, easier procedure for Lithuanian startups to attract talents from non-European countries.
So how do you see the benefits of it? I mean, do you see a lot of like tech talent moving to Lithuania because of that visa?
So this visa was launched, maybe last year. So,
okay. So it's quite new.
So long history, like with startup visa. At the moment, the numbers are not very high. We don't see the talents that are moving from European countries. The startup employee visa is only for non-European. So at the moment, the numbers are not very high. And of course, during this quarantine and COVID situation, all migration and like stopped for a while, I hope.
Yeah, I think it's a global phenomenon. It's stopped everywhere. It's not just
at the moment, yes. But of course, so a lot of work moved online and everyone is working remotely. So you can work for Lithuanian startups from different places.
That's great. Remote work is actually one of the new trends, I guess, as it's rising. And in the beginning of our conversation, you mentioned that Lithuania doesn't have natural resources. All we have is like a human capital. So the decisions of the government, I believe, was vital in turning this capital into like an innovative ecosystem. So my next question is about this, the role of government in building successful ecosystems. How long did it take you to do that? And how fast was government to react to all this feedback coming from the startup ecosystem players? In terms of visas, in terms of regulations. For example, if you want to create a fintech startup, certain regulations have to change. You mentioned that there's a VC funds over there investing, so that's also part of government's job to facilitate the process for them. So how effective is government, and how long actually does it take for a new country, for example, that doesn't have a great startup ecosystem? How long, because it's a long-term journey, how long do you think it will take them to start and to see benefits of the result?
Yeah, as I mentioned, everything in Lithuania, I think, started more than 10 years ago. First moves, first talks about startups and how to develop the ecosystem. And the government assigned first venture capital funds with EU money, partly governmental funds to encourage investing into startups. Tech parks as a part of universities began to develop different incentives. Startup, for example, started to work, I think, from 2013. So then it began to move faster. Of course, a lot of different decisions were taken. I think, again, the size of the country gives us possibilities to do things faster because we are really quite small country. We know almost each other, or if you meet a person, you can find a relative or a friend that you have in common. It's quite easy to go directly to the ministry and to propose something. At the moment, Startup Lithuania is trying to be a bridge between startups and the Ministry of Economy and Innovation. So we have really close connections with the startup community. We are trying to gather the information, what problems do they face, what solutions, what measures do they need. And then we go with these proposals to the Ministry of Economy or other institutions. And it's quiet. It's of course it takes time, but it's not really big time. We go with the proposals. If we see that it's really necessary, we can create new measures for startups, new incentives, new laws, and etc.
Yeah, that's great. Actually, what I observed is that you took your disadvantage as a country, because you mentioned that you're small, and turned it into advantage because you became more agile, fast, and it helped you to transform your regulation and also improve your startup ecosystem very fast. And my last question is about this different countries. I mean, the countries that are behind, for example, Lithuania. Many countries are, especially after this pandemic, many countries came to understand that you cannot really rely on your natural resources, because we see that this, supply chain globally, it got affected, and every traditional business actually affected negatively. And there needs to be some kind of digital transformation, and they start to study these successful countries, and they start to learn from them and apply these principles that actually work. So my question is for a government or for a country that wants to learn from Lithuania, based on your experience, what would be your advice in terms of where to start from, and what are the things that they need to pay attention to?
I think first would be great to know your advantages. Where are you strong? Where you have talent? What verticals you can foster and grow? If you have engineering talents, or maybe agriculture, like food tech is booming. Maybe life science. So it's better when you know where you are strong. and to start building ecosystems. So you have to know what you have, what you miss, maybe encourage different parts, different players to enter the ecosystem, to start and create hubs, accelerators, or help startups to go to foreign accelerators. Also, educational system is very important to see when children start to learn about technologies, about creating startups, innovative businesses, and etc. So it's a complex thing.
Okay, so you need to really understand your history first, the things that you're good at, the things that you can work on, and then try to apply that and transform that into innovative ecosystem. And yeah, just out of this curiosity, out of this conversation, what about the new type of emerging technologies? For example, AI, blockchain. These are not the things that are taught at universities or at schools. So if a government or the country wants to focus on that verticals, I mean, in terms of talent, in terms of experience, I mean, how does that work in Lithuania? Because cybersecurity is, you said that cybersecurity is booming vertical in Lithuania, and I believe in cybersecurity you need to have some kind of elements of AI in order to make it more successful. So how do you get this talent? I mean, what's your experience with that?
So what we see that really you are right, official education, it doesn't come so fast. First technologies emerge, and only then we are trying to put the learning of these technologies into universities, etc. I think that this former Soviet Union experience, it's again about the people. This experience when we got free, everyone wanted to have their own business to earn money. So Lithuanians are eager for earning money, for working. We are really hardworking people. Everyone is trying to create something, to work, to have better lives. So this also gives initiative for tech people. I think we are Lithuanians a tech geek, we see new technologies and people are trying to, everyone is talking about them, and we were the first in Europe, the first country that created a blockchain center only when the technology emerged. The same about AI, like everyone is talking about AI and implementing AI. So I think this eagerness, love for technologies, and it's talents and people who want to empower these technologies.
So it's not just education, it's also about openness, the idea of actually, I wouldn't say the idea, but the curiosity about the new technologies and trying to adapt them and learn them. So, so the mindset is also very important.
Mindset, and openness, new things. You have to see potential where to use this new technology.
Okay. So those are my questions, and now I want to move to, I think we have some questions from the audience as well. So the first question is about the competition. The question is Lithuania competing with Estonia? I think the reason for this question is that you have like a similar history, because both of the countries are coming from the Soviet Union, and the population size is kind of roughly the same. Well, Lithuania is like twice as many people in Lithuania than Estonia. But for example, you mentioned that Lithuania is putting focus on fintech, but there's also TransferWise, a unicorn that came out of Estonia. So is there some kind of competition between these countries?
Of course, I think there always is. It's like I like to say that it's like in a family. Sometimes we are coming together with Latvia and Estonia as 3 Baltic countries. But it's like children in a family. Sometimes we are fighting with each other, and of course some kind of competition. And I think it's really great thing because it's moving us forward. We want to be better than each other, and we are striving to better results. It gives some also great impact.
Yeah, that's really great. We're having like different similar countries and competing with them. I mean, competitions at the end of the day is good because you end up building like great things. And my next question is actually about this verticals. So a person asked about a question about verticals. So in your opinion, in a long term, what vertical do you think is? What vertical do you think will be more successful in Lithuania? I mean, you mentioned that there is a fintech emphasis, there is cybersecurity, there is mobility, maybe gaming, but in a long term, because at the end of the day, each country will probably specialize in some kind of vertical and become like a globally become known for this. So in terms of Lithuania, so what do you think this vertical will be?
So at the moment, we see big potential, and we saw already this potential, and with the COVID situation, it became even more important. So it's life science, and the government is putting more efforts, and we are trying to create life science startups, life science ecosystem. So more measures created, and more like special acceleration funds, special programs to foster this sector. So I think this could be.
Roberta, by life science, do you mean like pharmaceutical medicine, or is it?
Not only, also, development of drugs, but different solutions for healthcare.
Okay. Yeah, I actually read an article saying that there's a special vertical called, I think I forgot what they called it, but it basically targeted the audience of people who are 65 plus. So they're saying that these are the population segment that hasn't been saturated in market, and but these people are actually using internet. They're using their mobile phones, and they're accessing information. And another thing about this kind of segment is that these are the people who have money, who are retired, but they don't have anything to do because they have retired. So this is a great sector to build some solutions for them and to engage them. So I think, yes, health tech is also very important. After this pandemic, we've seen that many countries, even the United States, they started considering this real problems, and they try to push their startups to consider this, because everybody is building some kind of mobile app or some kind of game, but these are the real issues. These are the important issues. So that's.
I would like to add that you can see verticals and foster some sectors, but for example, like in Lithuania, unicorn arise from totally different area. So it really depends on founders, on the idea, and success happens.
Okay, and my last question actually is from the audience. Fidan is asking this question. So again, the question is about the future of startup ecosystem. So her question is, in Lithuanian ecosystem in the next 5 years, what kind of shifts or changes do you think will happen? And the second part of the question is that, do you think every startup will use some kind of AI or machine learning algorithms in their core businesses?
So yes, I think that most of the startups will use AI, machine learning, and all the new technologies that will arise. In 5 years, I believe we will have more matured startups, as at the moment we see a lot of early stage new startups. So I believe they will be more qualitative, they will attract more investments, and we hope that as we will have more people spreading from the startups that we have now. For example, people that worked in Vinted will create their own startups, and this wave will go like it happened with Skype. That what we already see in Lithuania, that people that worked in a startup, they are beginning to create their own startups. They are beginning to invest into other ideas, into other startups. So it's really becoming like a wave. New startups that are that already have knowledge and experience how to be successful, how to attract investments. So I hope in 5 years we will have more unicorns,
Hopefully.
more investments, and more startups and better startups.
Yes, more solutions to problems, less problems, more solutions, easier life.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much, Roberta. And my last question is this question that I ask to every single speaker that I talk to. What would be your advice for example, for startup founders from Azerbaijan? I mean, for people who are new to this phenomena, to startups, who have heard about startups but have never seen anyone and they want to start over. So what would be your advice for someone who wants to start his business? What are the things that he needs to learn or pay attention to?
I would advise to try to get as much information as possible. For example, Startup Lithuania just launched an online pre-acceleration program. As we saw this problem also in Lithuania, a lot of people wishing, having ideas even how to create a startup, but they don't have this knowledge. What's the journey of a startup? What's a pitch deck? How to go to investors and ask for investments. So I would advise to read books, to get to acceleration or pre-acceleration programs, to know the basics, evaluate the market, to really evaluate the idea. Does it solve any problem? Or is there anyone ready to pay for the solution? Is this problem really big for someone? So a lot of things to consider, but still don't be afraid and do it. Yeah,
mindset again. Don't be afraid. just do it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. It was nice having you today, Roberta. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for. I know that your schedule is very busy, but thank you very much for taking out time and joining me today in this talk.
Thanks for you, and goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.